The way I'm living is not showing how much I love God. It's obvious in your actions where your priorities lie. This is a portion in Scripture where Jesus is walking on water. The disciples are in a boat. They're in a storm. It gets really rocky. It gets kind of messy. And they see Jesus walking on the water. And they're like, what's going on? And then Jesus calls Peter to step out onto the water and to walk on the water. And he does for just a little bit. And then the second the waves seem to get a little too scary, or the lightning or the thunder is getting too much for him, he immediately crumbles under the pressure or under the fear of what is really happening. And so I think that we find ourselves in our faith journey being willing to fully commit without having a full understanding. Have you ever heard, seen somebody, this is maybe exposed, you don't have to raise your hand. I'll just say, I've seen a lot of people go to a baptism and then hear afterwards somebody say, I don't know if they were ready. I think that's something that we tend to say a lot about people when somebody's ready to be fully committed to Jesus. We deem somebody unfit to the calling that Jesus is calling us to. And maybe that's just me, but we tend to decide for God when somebody is ready to commit their life to Him. And that's not up to us. But knowing where we are at in our faith journey and making sure that we do understand what that calling is, the calling to live out our faith. I tend to talk about church like a phone charger, which is maybe a little weird, but we have these cell phones that we carry around, and these cell phones are not meant to be plugged in charging all the time. They're meant to be plugged into the wall for just a little bit and then carried out into the world to be used. And so I attribute the church as that part of our faith where we come to be recharged, to be filled, to be prepared for what goes on in the real world, where we then go and we share what Marshall shared with us in the morning or what we learned about in class to go and use it in the real world. But guys, it is so easy to make it like a chore to come to church, to make it just part of our routine to come to church, to enter these doors and to leave without absorbing what is being shared here with you or being shared with each other. The fellowship here is amazing, but knowing that we are supposed to go and live these things out. And I know I get paid to do the things that we talk about at church. So I don't know what it's like to go into an office and not be able to just completely publicly share your faith. I don't know what the repercussions of that are. I'll just be straight up honest with you guys on that. So finding opportunities to share that may be more difficult for y'all than it is for me, obviously. But understanding our purpose, understanding that a passive faith is not going to get the job done. It's like, if I want to get fit and go to the gym, I know I don't need to, but if I want to go to the gym and get fit, am I going to just go to the gym, or am I going to wait for some person to am I going to wait for the gym to be like, hey, are you going to come to the gym? Are you going to come work out? Yeah, I got it. I'll do it later. It's fine. No, if I want to get fit, if I want to work out my muscles, get fit, I got to go. I have to go and actively go to the gym, work out, use my body, use the things that I've been gifted with, use the knowledge of what I have to go and get fit, get better. But I'm waiting for that invite. Rather than waiting for opportunities to act out our faith, create opportunities to use our faith. We can pray for God to open doors, but I know if I ask y'all to raise your hands, if you've ever asked for a door to open and then ignored an open door, almost every single person's hand would be up. I've done that. I'll actually give you an example. In college, my professor was talking about how sad it is that we can't just, I don't want to say casually, but just in passing, we ask, how is somebody doing? How are you? Good. Oh, I'm good. How are you? Oh, I'm good. All right, see you later. It's a very passive thing. It's a very okay, just social, let's get that out of the way, we're good. And so one of my professors was talking about that, how much of a shame it is, how we feel like we can't just in the moment stop and pray for somebody. And so at the end of class, he asked us to pray for opportunities to do that. And then immediately, I'm going to my next class. I've got 10 minutes. I got to get all the way across Harding campus. It's like a 5-minute walk. And then this person who I kind of know is just not looking too great. Like they're just kind of moping a little bit. That sounded mean. They looked sad. And I was like, how are you? And they gave me the real answer. I'm not doing too well. And I gave the jerk answer. I said, oh my gosh, like, I'm so sorry, I'm in a rush. I'll pray for you later. Immediately prayed for an open door and slammed it right back shut. I'll figure it out eventually. Putting these things into action is hard. This is our human nature. Can you go to the next slide? Passionate loyalty mixed with human weakness. Part of the growing up from the pictures I was telling you about, the really cool like 12-year-old to the really cool 26-year-old picture, part of that growing up was realizing like my ego was way up here when I was young. And I have had to learn how to check my ego, how to check myself, leave myself at the door and allow God to fill my heart with things that I can't even comprehend. Because my head used to be so big, guys. I thought I was like the coolest person ever, for real. But understanding the weakness of humans, and each of us has a different weakness. It's not that we all have the same wrong thing with us. Well, sin would be the same thing that we all have got wrong, but we all struggle with different sins, right? And so we have this, we have this moment in Scripture where we actually just read it. Well, sort of. Yeah, we just read it. But Peter pronounces Jesus is the Messiah. Jesus is the Son of God. How could we ever betray you? I would never betray you, God. Or Jesus, I would never betray you. I could never do that. And then just later that day, when Jesus is being persecuted, when Jesus is being condemned to his fate, somebody recognizes Peter as one of Jesus' followers. And they say, hey, don't you know that Jesus guy? Aren't you with him? He's like, oh, no, that's not me. That must be somebody else. There's some other dude named Simon somewhere around here. That's got to be him. And they ask him 2 more times, and they say no. And what Jesus prophesied about Peter ended up becoming true, where he was offered 3 chances to accept Jesus as his Lord publicly before an angry mob and denied it. And this is the passionate loyalty. Peter was not lacking passion. But in the face of the fear and the humanity, this part of us that just feels this fear broke him in that moment. And so when we talk about our faith crumbling, how has our faith been tested? How have we lived out our faith in difficult situations? How are we building our faith when we're plugged into the wall? How are we preparing for when life is just brutal? How do we prepare for that coworker who asks you a question about Scripture? How are we preparing our hearts for maybe when you're not feeling the closest to God? When we tend to blame God a lot too. Whenever we're not hearing God's voice, we tend to blame God. Why can't I hear you? Why aren't you speaking to me? It's us. Do our actions show how much we love God? I talk about a friend of mine in Florida who is a youth minister there who tells a story. He tells it way better than I do, so I'll say it short. But he grew up, his dad was a preacher. He grew up across the street from this guy that this boy his age, that he wasn't totally sure if he went to church. They grew up across the street from each other for like 15 years. In his senior year, he decided to invite this guy over to one of his church events. And all that guy looked at him and said was, oh, I didn't know you went to church. And he was like, he had this moment of like, okay, the way I'm living is not showing how much I love God. Like the gym analogy again. It's like, am I eating donuts or am I going to the gym? People can kind of tell. It's obvious in your actions where your priorities lie.